When Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton's beloved Golden Retriever vanishes from a Monaco beach, a desperate search begins. Millions of fans share his story worldwide. Police investigate every lead. But nothing prepares Lewis for the phone call. That comes exactly 48 hours later, or for discovering who had been caring for Buster all along. Sometimes the most heartbreaking loss leads to the most unexpected gift. The sun was just coming up over Monaco on Tuesday morning. Lewis Hamilton opened his eyes and smiled. His big apartment overlooking the blue Mediterranean Sea was quiet and peaceful. Then he heard a familiar sound, the click of dog nails on the marble floor. "Good morning, boy," Lewis said as Buster jumped onto his bed. The 3-year-old Golden Retriever had thick, shiny fur and the biggest brown eyes Lewis had ever seen. Buster's tail wagged so hard his whole body wiggled. Lewis scratched behind Buster's ears. "Ready for our walk?" Buster barked once, which meant yes. He always knew when Lewis said the word walk. The dog ran to the front door and sat there, waiting like a good boy. Lewis got dressed in his favorite jeans and a black t-shirt. He clipped Buster's red leather leash to his collar. The collar had a small tag that said Buster Hamilton with Lewis's phone number. "Let's go see what Monaco looks like today," Lewis said. They walked down the fancy streets of Monte Carlo. The morning air smelled like flowers and the sea. Expensive cars lined the streets, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Porsches. But Lewis only cared about spending time with his best friend. Buster sniffed every tree and lamppost. His nose never stopped working. Sometimes he would stop and look at other dogs walking by. He always wagged his tail at everyone. "You're such a friendly boy," Lewis told him. "Just like when I first met you." Lewis remembered that day 2 years ago. He had been having a hard time after a tough racing season. His trainer said he needed something to help him relax. So Lewis went to a dog rescue center in England. There were many dogs there, but one little Golden Retriever puppy sat alone. In the corner, the puppy looked scared and sad. When Lewis sat down, the puppy walked over slowly and put his head on Lewis's knee. "This one," Lewis had said right away. "This is my dog." The lady at the rescue center smiled. "His name is Buster. He's been waiting for the right family." Now Buster was part of Lewis's family. They did everything together, ate breakfast, went for drives, even traveled to some racing events. They stopped at their favorite cafe on Avenue des Beaux-Arts. Mrs. Gabriella, the owner, always saved a special dog biscuit for Buster. "Bonjour, Lewis." "Bonjour, beautiful Buster," she called out in her thick French accent. She was an older lady with gray hair and kind eyes. "Good morning, Mrs. Gabriella," Lewis replied. "How are you today?" "Very good, very good. And how is my favorite racing driver and his handsome dog?" Buster sat perfectly and gave Mrs. Gabriella his paw. She laughed and gave him the biscuit. Such good manners. Not like some dogs who jump and bark. Lewis ordered his usual coffee and croissant. He sat at a small table outside while Buster lay down. Beside him, other people walking by stopped to pet Buster. He loved all the attention. "You know, boy," Lewis said quietly, "I think this is going to be a perfect day." After breakfast, Lewis decided to take Buster somewhere special. "Want to go to the beach?" he asked as Buster's ears perked up. He loved the beach almost as much as he loved food. They drove to Larvado Beach in Lewis's car. It was still early, so the beach wasn't too crowded yet. Just a few tourists taking pictures and some local people walking their dogs. Lewis found a good spot near the water. He took off Buster's leash so the dog could run around. Buster immediately started digging in the sand with his paws. Then he ran toward the water, barked at the waves, and ran back. "Silly dog," Lewis laughed. "The water won't hurt you." Lewis pulled out Buster's favorite tennis ball. It was old and chewed up, but Buster loved it more than any toy in the world. "Ready, boy? Go get it." Lewis threw the ball as far as he could. Buster ran after it like his life depended on it. His golden fur flew behind him as he ran. He caught the ball in his mouth and ran back to Lewis. So proud of himself, they played fetch for 20 minutes. Buster never got tired of this game. He would chase that ball forever if Lewis kept throwing it. Then Lewis's phone rang. It was his trainer, Marcus. "Hey Lewis, can we talk about your gym schedule for this week?" Marcus asked. "Sure, give me a second," Lewis said. He threw the ball one more time for Buster, then sat on a large rock to talk. "I'm thinking we do strength training Monday, Wednesday, and Friday," Marcus continued. "Then cardio on Tuesday and Thursday." What do you think? Lewis pulled out his phone to check his calendar. Let me see. I have that meeting with Ferrari on Wednesday. Can we move strength training to? Lewis looked up to call Buster back. The dog always came when Lewis called him. But Buster wasn't there. Buster, Lewis called out. Come here, boy. No golden dog came running back. Lewis stood up and looked around the beach. There were more people now, families with children, teenagers playing volleyball, couples walking hand in hand. But no Buster. Marcus, I have to call you back, Lewis said quickly and hung up. Buster, where are you? Lewis's voice got louder that he ran toward the water where Buster had been playing. No dog. He ran toward the rocks. No dog. He ran toward the parking area. Still no dog. Lewis's heart started beating faster. Buster never ran away. He was a good dog who always stayed close. Buster, Lewis shouted as loud as he could. A French family with 2 small children heard him shouting. The father walked over. Excusez-moi, are you looking for something? The man asked in English. My dog, Lewis said, trying not to panic. Golden retriever, about this big. He held his hands apart to show Buster's size. Have you seen him? The family looked around and talked to each other in French. The mother shook her head sadly. Non, we have not seen a golden dog, the father said. But we will help you look. More people on the beach heard the commotion. Soon there were 10 people looking for Buster. They checked behind every beach umbrella, every rock, every boat pulled up on the sand. Lewis ran from person to person. Have you seen a golden retriever? His name is Buster. But everyone gave him the same answer. No. The tennis ball sat in the sand where Buster had dropped it. Lewis picked it up with shaking hands. Just 5 minutes ago, his dog had been right here. Happy and safe. Now Buster was gone. Buster, Lewis called out one more time, his voice breaking with worry. But only the sound of waves answered him back. Lewis felt like he couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. Buster couldn't just disappear. Dogs didn't vanish into thin air that he ran across. The sand, looking behind every beach chair and umbrella. His expensive sneakers filled with sand, but he didn't care. All he cared about was finding his best friend. Excuse me, Lewis called to a group of teenagers playing volleyball. Did you see a golden retriever run by here? Big dog, golden fur. The kids stopped their game and looked at each other. One girl with long dark hair shook her head. Sorry, we just got here 5 minutes ago. Lewis's chest felt tight. He ran to the other end of the beach where some fishermen were setting up their equipment. Pardon, Lewis said in his best French. Have you seen a dog? Un chien? Golden. One of the old fishermen looked up from his nets. Non, monsieur. No dogs here this morning. Just seagulls. Lewis pulled out his phone and called the Monaco police. His hands shook as he dialed. Monaco police, how can I help you? A woman's voice answered in French. Hello, I need to report a missing dog, Lewis said quickly. At Larvado Beach. His name is Buster. One moment, please. I will connect you to someone who speaks English. Lewis waited, his eyes still scanning the beach. Maybe Buster would come running back any second with that tennis ball in his mouth. Hello, this is Officer Claire Dubois, said a new voice. You have a missing dog. Yes, my golden retriever. He was right here with me. And then he just disappeared. Can you give me your name, sir? Lewis Hamilton. There was a pause. The Formula One driver. Yes, but that doesn't matter right now. Please, my dog is missing. Officer Dubois's voice became very serious. Of course, Mr. Hamilton. Can you describe the dog? Golden retriever. 3 years old, about 30 kilograms. He has a red leather collar with his name and my phone number. He's very friendly, never runs away. I will send officers to the beach area right now, Officer Dubois said. Can you stay where you are? I'm not leaving without my dog, Lewis said. While he waited for the police, Lewis kept searching. He walked up and down the beach, calling Buster's name over and over. His voice was getting hoarse. The French family that had helped him earlier was still looking too. Their 2 children, a boy and a girl about 8 years old, were checking under all the boats pulled up on the shore. Buster. Here, Buster. The little girl called out in her cute French accent. Lewis felt a warm feeling in his heart despite his worry. These strangers were helping him look for a dog they had never met. That was the kind of kindness that gave him hope. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived. Officer Dubois was a tall woman with short brown hair and kind eyes. Her partner was a younger man who introduced himself as Officer Martin. We will put out an alert to all officers in Monaco, Officer Dubois said. Can you show me exactly where the dog was when you last saw him? Louis walked them to the spot where he had been sitting on the rock. The tennis ball was still there, looking lonely in the sand. I was on the phone for maybe 2 minutes, Louis explained. 3 minutes at most. When I looked up, he was gone. Officer. Martin took notes while Officer Dubois looked around the area. She walked toward the road that ran along the beach. Sometimes dogs get scared by loud noises, she said. Cars, motorcycles, construction. They run to find somewhere quiet. But Buster isn't afraid of noise, Louis said. He comes to my races. He's used to loud sounds. Still, something might have startled him, Officer Dubois said gently. We will check all the streets near the beach, and I will call the animal shelters in Monaco and the surrounding areas. Louis felt a little better knowing the police were helping, but only a little. He drove home to his apartment, hoping maybe Buster had somehow found his way back. Louis had heard stories about dogs walking hundreds of miles to get home. Maybe Buster was already there, waiting by the front door, but the apartment was empty. Buster's food bowls sat clean and unused in the kitchen. His favorite rope toy lay on the living room floor. His dog bed by the window looked sad and empty. Louis sat on his couch and put his head in his hands. How could he have been so careless? How could he have looked away, even for a few minutes? He picked up his phone and opened Instagram. His hands shook as he typed, "Please help. My dog Buster is missing from Larvado Beach in Monaco. Golden Retriever, 3 years old, red collar. He means everything to me. If you see him, please call Monaco police or message me. Please share this post. Hashtag Find Buster." Louis attached 3 photos. One of Buster sitting on the beach, one of him playing with his tennis ball, and one of him sleeping peacefully on Louis's bed. He posted the message and watched as people immediately started liking and sharing it. The comments came fast. Sharing from Italy. Hope you find him. My prayers are with you, Louis. Posted on all my social media. Don't give up. Within an hour, the post had 50,000 likes and 10,000 shares. Louis had never been so grateful for his millions of followers. His phone started ringing with calls from friends and other drivers. "Louis, I just saw your post," said Sebastian Vettel. "I'm in Switzerland, but I'm sharing it everywhere. Have you called all the animal shelters?" "The police are doing that," Louis said. "Seb, what if someone took him? What if he's hurt?" "Don't think like that," Sebastian said firmly. "Buster is smart and strong, and now millions of people are looking for him." Louis's assistant Marcus arrived at the apartment with a laptop and a stack of papers. "I've printed missing dog flyers," Marcus said, "and I'm setting up a reward, 50,000 euros for anyone who brings Buster home safely." "That's too much money," Louis said. "No amount of money is too much for family," Marcus replied. They spent the rest of the day putting up flyers all over Monaco. Every shop window, every telephone pole, every bulletin board they could find. Louis drove his car slowly through every street, calling Buster's name out the window. At the harbor, Louis saw a homeless man sitting near some fishing boats. The man looked familiar. Louis thought he might have seen him during the beach search earlier. Louis stopped his car and walked over. "Excuse me, have you seen a golden retriever?" "Big dog, very friendly." The man looked up. He had kind eyes but worn clothes. "You are the racing driver, yes? I heard people talking about your missing dog." "Yes, that's right. His name is Buster." The man thought for a moment. "I think maybe I saw Golden Dog near the old town yesterday. Or maybe today. I am not sure of time. But there was Golden Dog, walking alone." Louis's heart jumped. "Where in the old town?" "Near the cathedral, I think. But I cannot be sure it was your dog." Louis thanked the man and gave him some money for food. As he drove toward the cathedral, his phone rang. His heart pounded. Maybe someone had found Buster, but it was Officer Dubois with disappointing news. "We've checked all the animal shelters in Monaco and the nearby French towns. No golden retrievers matching Buster's description." Louis parked near the cathedral and walked through the narrow, winding streets of Monaco's old town. These streets were hundreds of years old, with stone buildings and tiny shops. "Buster," he called. "Come here, boy." But the only sounds were his own voice echoing off the old stone walls and the distant noise of traffic. As the sun began to set, Louis felt more alone than he had ever felt in his life. Somewhere out there, his best friend was lost, maybe scared, maybe hungry. Lewis sat on the steps of the cathedral and made a promise to the empty streets. "I won't give up on you, boy. I'll find you no matter what." He stayed there until the streetlights came on, hoping Buster might wander into the old town looking for him. But the ancient stone streets remained empty except for a few tourists taking evening photos. Lewis barely slept that night. Every small sound made him jump up, thinking maybe Buster was scratching at the door. But it was just the wind, or cars passing by, or his own worried imagination. Wednesday morning brought new hope. Lewis's phone was ringing nonstop with people calling about possible sightings. "Hello, is this Lewis Hamilton?" asked an excited woman's voice. "Yes. Do you have information about Buster? I think I saw your dog at the train station in Nice. Golden Retriever, right?" He was with a young couple. Lewis's heart raced. Nice was only 30 minutes from Monaco. "Are you sure it was him?" "Pretty sure. The dog looked just like your photos." Lewis grabbed his car keys and drove to Nice as fast as he could safely go. But when he got to the train station, there was no sign of Buster or any golden dog. The woman who called wasn't there either. Her phone number didn't work when Lewis tried calling back. Disappointed, Lewis drove back to Monaco. His phone rang again. "Mr. Hamilton? I'm calling from Italy. I think your dog is in San Remo. My neighbor saw a golden dog running near the beach." This time Lewis didn't drive immediately. Instead, he called the San Remo police and asked them to check. 2 hours later, they called back. No golden retriever found up by noon. Lewis had received 15 phone calls about possible Buster sightings. Each one filled him with hope, then broke his heart when it turned out to be false. He met Marcus at a cafe near the harbor to plan their next steps. "People mean well," Marcus said gently. "But when there's a big reward, sometimes they see what they want to see." "I know," Lewis said, stirring his coffee without drinking it. "But what if one of them is real? What if Buster really is out there and I don't follow up?" "We'll follow up on everything," Marcus promised. "But maybe we need more help." That's when Elena Rodriguez walked up to their table. She was a veterinarian with short black hair and warm brown eyes. She wore a white coat with Monaco Animal Clinic written on it. "Excuse me, Mr. Hamilton? I'm Dr. Rodriguez. I saw your social media posts about Buster." Lewis stood up immediately. "Do you have information about him?" "Not yet, but I want to help. I volunteer with animal rescue groups across southern France and Italy. We can organize a bigger search." Elena sat down and pulled out her phone. "Look, I've already contacted 20 volunteers. They're coming from Nice, Cannes, even some from Italy. We can search areas the police haven't covered yet." For the first time since Buster disappeared, Lewis felt real hope. "You would do that? For a stranger's dog?" "Animals don't belong to just one person," Elena said with a smile. "They belong to all of us who love them. Besides, Buster's story is bringing people together. That's worth something." Within 2 hours, over 100 people gathered at Larvado Beach where Buster had disappeared. Lewis couldn't believe his eyes. There were families with children, teenagers, elderly couples, even some tourists who had changed their vacation plans to help. Elena organized everyone into teams. Each team got maps of different areas around Monaco: the hills behind the city, the coastal roads, the parks and gardens. "Remember," Elena told everyone, "golden retrievers are friendly dogs. If Buster sees people, he will probably come toward you. But he might be scared or confused, so move slowly and speak gently." Lewis joined a team searching the area near Monaco Harbor. That's where he met Pierre again, the homeless man who thought he might have seen Buster near the cathedral. "You came to help search?" Lewis asked, surprised. Pierre nodded. "I know what. It feels like to lose something important. I want to help if I can." As they walked through the harbor area, Pierre told Lewis a little about himself. "I live here for 2 years now. I know all the places where scared animals might hide." Pierre showed Lewis spots he never would have thought to look: under old boats, behind storage containers, in small spaces between buildings. "When I was young in my country, I had a dog too," Pierre said quietly. "Very smart dog. He helped my family. Dogs, they understand people's hearts." Lewis found himself walking slower to stay with Pierre. There was something calming about the older man's presence, something that made Lewis feel less alone. They searched until sunset, but found no sign of Buster. As the volunteers said goodbye and promised to search again tomorrow, Lewis felt grateful, but exhausted. That evening, Lewis's phone rang with another call that made his heart stop. "Is this Lewis Hamilton?" asked a man with a French accent. Yes, I found your dog. He's at the animal shelter in Nice. You can come get him right away. Louis was already grabbing his keys. Are you sure it's Buster? Golden retriever with a red collar. Yes, definitely your dog. Very beautiful, very friendly. The shelter closes at 8 o'clock, so hurry. Louis called Elena to meet him there. They drove to Nice together, both excited and nervous. What if it's really him? Elena said. What if this nightmare is finally over? I'm almost afraid to hope, Louis admitted. I've been disappointed so many times today. The animal shelter was a clean, modern building with the sound of barking dogs coming from inside. A young woman at the front desk smiled when Louis walked in. You are here for the golden retriever? She asked in English. Yes, his name is Buster. Someone called and said you found him. The woman looked confused. We do have a golden retriever. That came in today, but no one here called you. Let me get my supervisor. Louis's stomach started to feel sick, but he followed the woman to the back of the shelter. In a clean kennel sat a beautiful golden retriever, but it wasn't Buster. This dog was older, with grayer fur around his face. His collar was blue, not red. When he saw Louis, he wagged his tail hopefully, but there was no recognition in his eyes. This isn't my dog, Louis said quietly. The supervisor, an older man with kind eyes, looked very sorry. Someone must have made a mistake. People see golden dogs and think they're all the same. Louis knelt down by the kennel. The dog inside came over and licked his hand through the bars. Even though this wasn't Buster, Louis felt sorry for him. How long has he been here? Louis asked. 3 weeks, the supervisor said. No one has claimed him. He's a very good dog. Louis made a quick decision. I'll pay for his care until someone adopts him, and I'll help you find him a good home. Outside, in the parking lot, Louis sat in his car and finally let himself cry. Elena sat beside him quietly, not saying anything. Sometimes the best comfort is just having someone near you. I really thought it was him, Louis said through his tears. For a few minutes, I thought I was going to see Buster again. You will see him again, Elena said firmly. I don't know when or how, but you will. Some connections are too strong to break. As they drove back to Monaco, Elena told Louis about her own experience with lost animals. 5 years ago, my dog Marco went missing for a whole week, she said. I searched everywhere, put up posters, called every shelter. I was heartbroken. What happened? He came home on his own, skinny and dirty, but alive. He had been hiding in a construction site, too scared to come out. When he finally got hungry enough and brave enough, he found his way back. Elena looked at Louis seriously. Animals are stronger and smarter than we think. If Buster is out there, he's trying to survive until he can find you again. Don't give up hope. When Louis got home, he sat in his living room looking at Buster's things. The rope toy, the food bowl, the bed by the window where Buster loved to sleep in the morning sun. Louis picked up his phone and posted another message on social media, along with a new photo of him and Buster playing at the beach. Day 2 without my best friend. Thank you to everyone searching and sharing. Buster, wherever you are, I'm still looking for you. Come home, boy. Within minutes, thousands of people responded with love and support. Messages came from all over the world: Brazil, Japan, Australia, Canada. People shared stories of their own lost pets and how they found them again. Louis read every single message. Each one gave him a little more strength to keep going. Before bed, he walked out onto his balcony and looked out over Monaco. Somewhere in this beautiful place, his best friend was alone in the dark. I'm still here, Buster, Louis said to the night, and I'm not giving up. Thursday morning brought something Louis never expected. When he checked his phone, he had messages from other Formula One drivers, even the ones he raced against every weekend. Max Verstappen had posted on Instagram, "Racing doesn't matter when family is missing." Sharing everywhere. Come home, Buster. Hashtag find Buster, Carlos Sainz wrote. Every dog lover is thinking of you, Louis. We race each other on track, but we're family off track. Even Fernando Alonso, who Louis had battled with for years, posted Buster's photo with a message in Spanish and English. Lost dogs find their way home. Don't lose hope, my friend. Louis felt tears in his eyes reading these messages. These drivers were his competitors, but they were showing him kindness when he needed it most. Then his phone rang. It was Formula One's official social media manager. Louis, we want to help, she said. Can we post about Buster on all the official F1 accounts? Really? You would do that? Of course. You're part of our F1 family. And honestly, this story is touching millions of people around the world. Within an hour, every major Formula One social media account shared Buster's story. The reach was incredible. Over 50 million people saw the posts in the first 2 hours that Lewis's doorbell rang around noon. When he opened it, he saw a news reporter with a camera crew. "Mr. Hamilton, I'm Sarah Chun from CNN International. Would you be willing to talk about Buster? Your story is being covered by news stations worldwide." Lewis normally avoided interviews when he was emotional. But maybe TV coverage would help more people see Buster's face. They filmed outside Lewis's apartment building. Sarah was professional but kind, asking gentle questions. "Tell us what Buster means to you," she said. Lewis looked directly into the camera, hoping somehow Buster might see him. "He's not just a dog. He's family. He's been with me through my hardest times. When I'm stressed about racing or life, he just looks at me with those big brown eyes and everything feels okay." Lewis's voice started to break. "Somewhere out there, he might be scared or hungry or lost. I just want him to know I'm looking for him. I won't stop looking." What would you say to people watching who want to help? Keep sharing his photo. Keep looking. And if you see a golden dog that looks lost, please check if it might be him. Someone, somewhere, has seen Buster. I just need that person to realize it. After the interview, Lewis drove through Monaco again. But this time was different. Everywhere he looked, he saw Buster's face. The Casino Monte Carlo had put Buster's photo on their huge electronic sign outside. Local restaurants had his picture in their windows. Even the Monaco bus stops had small, missing dog posters. Lewis stopped at a local bakery he had never been to before. The owner, an elderly man with flour on his apron, recognized him immediately. "Mr. Hamilton, we are all looking for your beautiful dog. My granddaughter, she made this for you." He handed Lewis a hand-drawn picture. It showed a stick figure man, holding hands with a golden dog under a rainbow. At the bottom, in wobbly child's handwriting, it said, "Buster will come home soon." Lewis's throat felt tight. "Can you thank her for me? This means so much." She is 8 years old. She has been asking her parents to drive around looking for Buster every day after school. Lewis folded the drawing carefully and put it in his wallet. Children he had never met were spending their time trying to help him. That afternoon, Lewis visited every animal shelter within 100 kilometers of Monaco. At each one, he met abandoned animals, cats with no homes, dogs that had been given up by their families, puppies that had been found on the streets at a shelter in Antibes, France. Lewis met a small black dog that had been there for 6 months. The dog was shy and scared, hiding in the back of his kennel. "No one wants the older dogs or the scared ones," the shelter worker explained sadly. "People want puppies that are already trained and friendly." Lewis knelt down by the kennel. "What's his name?" "We call him Shadow. He was found tied to a tree in the rain. He doesn't trust people much anymore." Lewis sat there quietly for 10 minutes, just letting Shadow get used to him. Finally, the little dog came forward and sniffed Lewis's hand. "I know what it feels like to be scared and alone," Lewis whispered to Shadow. Before leaving each shelter, Lewis wrote a check to help pay for food and medical care for all the animals. Even though his heart was breaking about Buster, he couldn't ignore these other animals that needed help too. At the shelter in Cannes, he got another phone call about a possible Buster sighting. "I saw a golden dog at the park near my house," said an older woman. He looked lost and sad, very skinny. Lewis drove to the park immediately, his heart pounding. But when he got there, he found a golden retriever that was much smaller than Buster and had different markings. The dog was skinny and dirty, with no collar. Lewis sat on a park bench, feeling defeated once again. An elderly woman sat down beside him. She had silver hair and kind blue eyes. She was carrying a small bag of breadcrumbs. "You look very sad, young man," she said in accented English. Lewis didn't have the energy to explain who he was or why he was there. "I lost my dog," he said simply. "Ah," she said, nodding like she understood everything. "I am Marie. I come here every day to feed the birds." She scattered some breadcrumbs on the ground. Pigeons and sparrows came over immediately, happy to see her. "5 years ago, my cat disappeared," Marie said, watching the birds eat. Toulouse was his name. Beautiful orange cat, very fat and lazy. "Did you find him?" He was gone for 5 days. I cried every night. Then one morning, I heard scratching at my door. There he was, skinny and dirty, but alive. He had been hiding under a neighbor's porch, too scared to come out. Marie looked at Louis with wise eyes. Animals are smarter than we think. They remember love. They remember home. Your dog, he is trying to find his way back to you. But it's been 3 days, Louis said. 3 days is nothing for a dog who loves his family, Marie said firmly. My Toulouse taught me something important. Sometimes we have to trust that love is stronger than fear. She stood up to leave, then turned back. Keep looking, but also keep believing. Animals can feel our hope, even from far away. As Marie walked away, Louis felt something shift inside him. Maybe she was right. Maybe Buster could somehow feel that Louis was looking for him. Louis drove home as the sun was setting over Monaco. Tomorrow would be day 4 without Buster. But tonight, Louis felt a little stronger that he posted one more message on social media. Before bed, day 3 complete. Thank you to everyone helping search. To the news stations sharing our story. To the children making drawings. To the shelters checking for Buster. And to all the F1 family supporting us. Tomorrow we search again. Hashtag find Buster, hashtag never give up. The response was immediate. Thousands of heart emojis. Messages from every continent. Videos of people's own dogs. As if to show Buster he had friends everywhere. Louis fell asleep that night holding Buster's favorite rope toy, still believing that somehow, somewhere, his best friend was trying to come home. Friday morning came. With gray clouds over Monaco, Louis woke up to his phone buzzing on the bedside table. For a moment, he forgot why his heart felt so heavy. Then he remembered. Buster had been missing for 48 hours. Louis reached for his phone, expecting another message from a kind stranger or maybe Marcus with an update about the search. But the screen showed an unknown Monaco phone number calling. Him. Louis sat up in bed. Most people had been texting or messaging him on social media. Very few had his actual phone number. Hello. Louis answered, his voice still sleepy. Hello, is this Lewis Hamilton? The voice was young, maybe a child, speaking careful English with a French accent. Louis was suddenly wide awake. Yes, this is Louis. Who is this? I have your dog. Louis's heart stopped. What? What did you say? I have your dog. He's safe. He's okay. Louis jumped out of bed, his hands shaking. Where is he? Is Buster really okay? Let me talk to. Meet me at Place du Casino at 2 p.m. today, the young voice said clearly. Come alone. Don't bring police. Wait. Louis said quickly. Who are you? How do I know this is real? Can I hear Buster bark? Can you? But the line went dead. Louis stared at his phone, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Someone had Buster. A child had Buster that he immediately called Officer Dubois. This could be good news, or it could be a trick, she said after Louis told her about the call. People sometimes try to get reward money by lying. But it was a child's voice, Louis said. Kids don't usually plan tricks like that. Maybe not, but you should be careful. Place du Casino is very public, which is good. But I don't like that they said to come alone. I don't care if it's dangerous, Louis said. If there's any chance Buster is really alive and safe, I have to try. I understand. But let me have officers nearby, just hidden. And take someone with you, even if you meet the caller alone. Louis called Elena, who agreed to come with him and wait nearby. Then he called Marcus to tell him what was happening. This sounds too good to be true, Marcus said, but also too specific to be fake. Who would know to call you directly instead of just messaging on social media? Louis spent the morning trying to stay calm, but his mind was racing. What if this was real? What if in a few hours he would see Buster again? What if he could hold his best friend and tell him everything would be okay? But what if it wasn't real? What if this was just another cruel disappointment? At 1:30 p.m., Louis and Elena drove to Place du Casino. This was the heart of Monaco, the famous square where tourists came to see expensive cars and take photos of the Grand Casino building. I'll wait over there by the fountain, Elena said, pointing to a spot where she could see Louis but stay out of the way. If anything seems wrong, I'll call the police immediately. Louis nodded, too nervous to speak much. He stood exactly in the center of the square, looking around at every person walking by. Tourists pointed cameras at Ferraris and Lamborghinis parked nearby. Wealthy people in designer clothes walked in and out of the casino. Children ran around while their parents took photos. Louis checked his phone, 1:58 p.m. Then he saw someone walking toward him, a small figure moving through the crowd. It was a girl, maybe 10 years old, with long dark hair and serious brown eyes. She wore a simple blue dress that looked like it had been washed many times. Her shoes were old but clean. She walked straight up to Louis like she had done this 100 times before. "Are you Louis?" she asked in the same careful English from the phone call. "Yes," Louis said, kneeling down so he was at her eye level. "Are you the one who called me?" She nodded. "My name is Sophia." Louis looked around, expecting to see an adult with her, or maybe someone carrying a dog. "Where is Buster? Where is my dog?" "Follow me," Sophia said simply. She turned and started walking toward the old town, the same area where Louis had searched 2 nights ago. Louis hesitated. Should he follow a strange child? But something about Sophia's serious expression made him trust her. She didn't seem scared or confused. She seemed like she knew exactly what she was doing. "Wait," Louis said, catching up to her. "How far are we going? Is Buster really okay?" "He is safe," Sophia said. "He has been eating good food. We took him to the doctor to check if he was hurt." "We? Who is we?" Sophia kept walking. "You will see." They left the busy tourist area and entered the narrow, winding streets of Monaco's old town. These streets were hundreds of years old, with stone buildings that looked like they belonged in a fairy tale. Louis had never walked through this part of Monaco, even though he had lived here for years. The streets were so narrow that cars couldn't drive through them. Washing hung from windows above their heads. Old women sat on doorsteps watching people walk by. Sophia moved through these streets like she knew every stone. She turned left, then right, then left again. Louis tried to remember the way, but everything looked the same to him. "Are you from Monaco?" Louis asked as they walked. "We live here now," Sophia said. "Before, we lived in another country." "Which country?" Sophia was quiet for a moment. "A country where there was fighting, where it was not safe for children." Louis felt his heart hurt for this little girl. She was so young, but she spoke like someone who had seen difficult things. They walked for 10 more minutes, going deeper into the old town. Finally, Sophia stopped in front of a small building that looked very old. The walls were made of stone, and the paint on the green wooden door was peeling. Sophia knocked on the door in a specific pattern. 3 quick knocks, pause, 2 more knocks. Louis's heart was beating so fast he felt dizzy. Behind this door was his best friend really waiting for him. The door started to open slowly. Louis held his breath. Then he heard it, a sound that made his whole body feel weak with relief. A dog barking. Not just any dog bark, but a bark he would recognize anywhere in the world. Buster's bark. "Buster," Louis called out, his voice breaking with emotion. The barking got louder and more excited, like Buster had heard his name and recognized Louis's voice. The green door opened wider, and Louis saw a man standing there. It was Pierre, the homeless man who had helped search for Buster. But now Louis could see him clearly for the first time. Pierre had kind eyes and a gentle smile. His clothes were simple but clean, and behind Pierre, jumping up and down like his tail might fall off from wagging so hard, was Buster. "Buster!" Louis dropped to his knees right there in the narrow street. Buster ran straight into Louis's arms, covering his face with wet dog kisses. Louis hugged him tight, feeling Buster's warm fur and solid body against his chest. He was real. He was alive. He was okay. Louis buried his face in Buster's neck and started to cry. Not sad tears this time, but tears of pure joy and relief. "I thought I lost you forever," Louis whispered to Buster. "I thought I might never see you again." Buster whined softly and licked Louis's tears away, like he was saying, "I missed you too." Louis looked up at Pierre and Sophia, who were watching, with smiles on their faces. "I don't understand," Louis said, still holding Buster tight. "How did you? When did you?" "Come inside," Pierre said gently. "We will tell you everything." Louis stood up, with Buster staying pressed against his legs like he never wanted to be separated again. They walked into the small apartment, and Louis saw that this was where Pierre and Sophia lived. The apartment was tiny, but very clean. There was a small kitchen, a living area with 2 chairs and a table, and what looked like 1 bedroom. Everything was simple, but it felt like a real home. Sophia sat down beside Pierre on one of the chairs. Louis sat on the floor so Buster could stay close to him. "Now," Louis said, still not quite believing this was real, "please tell me what happened. How did you find Buster?" How long have you had him? Pierre and Sophia looked at each other, like they were deciding who should tell the story. Finally, Sophia spoke. We found him on Tuesday, the day he got lost. He was hiding under a fishing boat near the harbor, crying and shaking. His collar was broken. Louis looked at Buster's neck. Sure enough, he was wearing a makeshift collar made from soft rope instead of his red leather one. We knew he belonged to someone important, Pierre said. But we were scared to call right away. Scared? What? Louis asked. Sophia looked down at her hands. Papa doesn't have the right papers to live in Monaco. We thought maybe the police would send us away if we called them. Louis's heart sank as he began to understand their situation. Pierre saw the look on Louis's face and quickly continued. But we could not keep your dog when you were so sad. Sophia saw you on the television yesterday, crying. She said we had to call you. Sophia nodded seriously. I know what it feels like to miss family. My mama is in heaven now. I didn't want you to feel that sadness anymore. Louis felt his throat get tight with emotion. This little girl had lost her mother, yet she was worried about his feelings. Tell me everything, Louis said gently. Start from the beginning. How did you find Buster? Pierre took a deep breath. 2 days ago, I was working near the harbor. I collect bottles and cans to sell for recycling money. It helps us buy food. Louis nodded, encouraging him to continue. I heard a dog crying. Very sad crying, like a child who is lost. Sophia was with me because it was her day off from school. We followed the sound, Sophia added. Under the big blue fishing boat, we found him. He was shaking and his fur was wet. I think he tried to swim, but got scared. Pierre's eyes were kind as he remembered. His collar was broken in pieces on the rocks nearby. Maybe it caught on something and broke when he tried to get away. Louis looked at Buster, who was lying across his lap like he never wanted to move again. Were you hurt, boy? No big injuries, Pierre said, but he was very scared and hungry. He would not eat for the first day. How did you know he was mine? Louis asked. Sophia smiled for the first time since Louis had met her. At the public library, they have computers people can use for free. I showed the librarian your dog's picture on my phone. She helped me search on the internet. We saw your Instagram and your Twitter, Pierre added. We knew this was your dog right away. Same golden fur, same size, same face markings. Louis was amazed. So you've had him for 2 whole days? Yes, Pierre said. We used our food money to buy him good dog food. And we took him to the free veterinary clinic to make sure he was not hurt inside. You spent your own money on food for him? Louis asked, his voice full of wonder. Sophia nodded. Dogs need good food to be healthy. We know how it feels to be hungry. Louis looked around their tiny apartment again. Now he understood why everything was so simple. They had very little money, but they had spent what they had to take care of. Buster, why didn't you call me sooner? Louis asked. Pierre and Sophia looked at each other sadly. We are from Syria, Pierre said quietly. We came to Europe 2 years ago, after the war destroyed our city. Sophia's mother, she died when a bomb hit our neighborhood. Louis felt his heart break for them. I'm so sorry. We have been trying to get the right papers to stay in Monaco legally, Pierre continued. But it takes a very long time. Sometimes years. We were afraid that if we called the police about your dog, they might ask questions about us. Papa was scared they would send us away, Sophia explained. But I couldn't watch you being sad anymore. Yesterday on the news, you looked like I felt when Mama died. Louis had to wipe tears from his eyes. This brave little girl had convinced her father to risk their safety just to end Louis's sadness. You took a big chance calling me, Louis said. Love is always a big chance, Pierre said simply. But it is the only chance worth taking. Louis learned more about their story as they talked. Pierre had been a teacher in Damascus before the war. He spoke Arabic, French, and English. Sophia was only 6 when they had to leave Syria, but she remembered her mother teaching her to read. We lived in refugee camps for 2 years before we could come to France, Pierre explained. Then we heard Monaco was a safe place for children to go to school. So we came here. How do you survive? Louis asked. I work when I can find jobs that don't require papers, Pierre said. Cleaning, carrying things, helping at the market. Sophia goes to school. The teachers are very kind and they do not ask too many questions. Louis looked at Sophia. Do you like school? Her face lit up. I love school. I am learning to read French better, and my teacher says I am good at mathematics. And I draw pictures. She ran to a small shelf and brought back a notebook. Inside were beautiful drawings, pictures of the Monaco harbor, the cathedral, and many drawings of dogs. "These are wonderful," Louis said, looking through the notebook. "You're a real artist." One drawing made Louis stop. It showed a man crying, while a dog watched from far away. At the bottom, in careful writing, it said, "Don't cry, the dog will come home." "You drew this about me and Buster?" Louis asked. Sophia nodded. "I drew it the first night we had him. He was so sad," looking toward the door. "I knew he missed you." Louis felt overwhelmed by the kindness of these two people. They had nothing, but they had given everything to help him and Buster. "There's something I need to do," Louis said. He pulled out his phone. "Who are you calling?" Pierre asked nervously. "Don't worry," Louis said. "I'm calling my lawyer and the immigration office and Officer Dubois." Pierre started to stand up, fear in his eyes. "Please, we will leave Monaco if you want. Just don't let them put Sophia in a different place from me." "Stop," Louis said firmly but kindly. "I'm not calling to get you in trouble. I'm calling to help you." Over the next hour, Louis made several phone calls. He spoke to his immigration lawyer about helping Pierre get proper work papers. He called Officer Dubois to explain the situation and make sure there would be no problems. He even called the Monaco Department of Education to ask about programs for refugee children. While Louis was on the phone, Sophia sat on the floor playing with Buster. She had made him a toy from old rope, and Buster loved it almost as much as his tennis ball. "He is very smart," Sophia told Louis when he finished his calls. "I taught him a new trick. Buster, shake hands." Buster sat up and gave Sophia his paw perfectly. "Amazing," Louis said. "He's never learned tricks that fast before." "Children and dogs learn from each other," Pierre said with a smile. "They both understand what it means to need love." Louis sat back down on the floor with Buster. "I want to do something for you both. Actually, I want to do many things." "You do not owe us anything," Pierre said. "We did what anyone should do." "No," Louis said. "What you did was extraordinary. You spent your own money to care for a stranger's dog. You risked your safety to return him. You taught him new tricks and made him feel loved when he was scared." Louis looked directly at both of them. "I want to offer Pierre a job working for my charitable foundation. We need someone who speaks multiple languages and understands what refugee families need." Pierre's eyes went wide. "A real job? With papers?" "A real job with full legal support to get your immigration status sorted out," Louis confirmed. "And Sophia, I want to set up an education fund for you. Art lessons, advanced mathematics, whatever you want to study." Sophia looked at her father with excitement, but Pierre still seemed nervous. "Why would you do this for us?" Pierre asked. "Because," Louis said, scratching Buster behind the ears, "you taught me something important. You showed me what real kindness looks like. You had every reason to worry about your own problems, but you put my happiness first." Louis stood up, with Buster immediately standing beside him. "Also, I think Buster chose you. Dogs are good judges of character. If he felt safe with you, then I know you're good people." "Where would we live?" Sophia asked. "This apartment is very small, but it is our home. For now, you can stay in my guest rooms while we find you a proper place," Louis said. "Buster can help you feel at home." As if he understood, Buster walked over to Sophia and put his head in her lap. "I think he wants both families," Sophia said, laughing as Buster licked her face. That evening, Louis helped Pierre and Sophia pack their few belongings. They didn't have much: some clothes, Sophia's school books, Pierre's Arabic-French dictionary, and the notebook full of drawings. "Are you sure about this?" Pierre asked Louis as they walked toward Louis's car. "Your life will be very different with us around." Louis looked at Sophia holding Buster's new rope leash, and Pierre carrying the small bag with everything they owned. "My life has been different since the moment you found Buster," Louis said. "Different in the best possible way." As they drove through Monaco toward Louis's apartment, Sophia pressed her face against the car window, looking at the lights reflecting on the harbor. "Papa," she said in wonder, "is this really happening?" "Yes, little star," Pierre said softly. "Sometimes when you do something good, good things happen back to you." Buster sat between them in the back seat, his tail wagging, like he knew his family had just gotten bigger. Louis looked in the rearview mirror at the three beings who had changed his life forever. 2 days ago, he had lost his dog and felt like his world was ending. Tonight, he had his dog back, and he had gained something even more precious, a real family, built not on blood or birth, but on kindness and love. "Thank you," Louis said quietly, not sure if he was talking to Pierre and Sophia, or to Buster, or to whatever force in the universe had brought them all together. "Thank you for showing me what home really means." When they arrived at Louis's apartment, Sophia's mouth dropped open. She had never seen a place so big and beautiful. The windows looked out over the Mediterranean Sea, and the setting sun painted everything in golden colors. "Is this really where you live?" she asked in wonder. "This is where we live now," Louis said with a smile. Buster ran straight to his favorite spot by the window and lay down with a happy sigh. He was home. Louis showed Pierre and Sophia to the guest rooms. Each room was bigger than their entire old apartment. Sophia ran to the window in her room and pressed her nose against the glass. "Papa, look. I can see boats and the water and everything." Pierre stood behind her, his eyes filled with tears. "I never thought we would live somewhere so beautiful again." "This is just the beginning," Louis said. "Tomorrow we'll go shopping for whatever you need. New clothes, school supplies, art materials for Sophia." That evening, they sat together in Louis's kitchen sharing dinner. Louis had ordered food from 3 different restaurants because he wasn't sure what Pierre and Sophia liked to eat. "In Syria, before the war, I cooked every day," Pierre said, tasting the Lebanese food Louis had ordered. "I will cook for us tomorrow, if you like. Syrian food is very good." "I would love that," Louis said. "I've been eating restaurant food for so long. I forgot what home cooking tastes like." Sophia was quiet during dinner, just watching everything, with big eyes. Finally, she spoke up. "Mr. Louis, why are you being so kind to us? We are just strangers." Louis put down his fork and looked at her seriously. "You're not strangers anymore. And you weren't strangers when you found Buster. Do you know what you did?" Sophia shook her head. "You saw someone in need, Buster, and you helped him, even though it was hard for you. Then you saw me in need, and you helped me too, even though it was scary. That's not what strangers do. That's what family does." Louis paused, choosing his words carefully. "I've been rich and famous for many years. Lots of people are nice to me because they want something. But you and Pierre were kind to me before you even knew who I was. You were kind because that's who you are." Pierre nodded slowly. "In our religion, we believe that when you help someone, God sends someone to help you. Maybe God sent you to help us." "Maybe God sent you to help me," Louis replied. "I thought losing Buster was the worst thing that could happen, but it brought me to you." After dinner, Louis made some important phone calls while Pierre and Sophia unpacked their few belongings. First, he called his lawyer again to make sure the immigration paperwork would be started immediately. Then he called his assistant Marcus to explain everything that had happened. "You want to hire them?" Marcus asked. "Louis, are you sure? You just met them." "I've known them for longer than you think," Louis said. "They've been taking care of what matters most to me for 2 days. They've already proven who they are." "What kind of job would Pierre do?" "My foundation helps people around the world, but I don't always understand what they really need," Louis explained. "Pierre lived through war and being a refugee. He speaks 3 languages. He can help me make better decisions about where to spend money and how to really help people." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You're right. That makes perfect sense." Next, Louis called the Monaco immigration office. Officer Dubois had already called ahead to explain the situation. "Mr. Hamilton," said the immigration officer, "we are very impressed by this family's honesty. They could have kept your dog and claimed the reward money dishonestly. Instead, they did the right thing. That shows good character. So you'll help them get proper papers? We have a new program for refugees who show they can contribute to Monaco society. Pierre's language skills and your job offer make him an excellent candidate. We can fast-track his application." Louis felt relief wash over him. Pierre and Sophia would be safe. Finally, Louis called Elena, the veterinarian who had helped organize the search. "Louis, did you really find Buster? The whole city is talking about it." "I found more than Buster," Louis said. "I found a family." He told Elena the whole story. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard," she said finally. "Those people are angels." "Elena, I want to ask you something. Would you be Buster's regular veterinarian? And maybe would you like to be our friend?" Sophia has never had a woman in her life since her mother died. I think she could use a kind person like you. I would be honored, Elena said immediately. And Louis? What you're doing for them, it's going to change their lives forever. They already changed mine. The next morning, Louis woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. He found Sophia sitting at the breakfast table with Buster beside her, both of them watching Pierre cook eggs and flatbread. "Good morning, family," Louis said, and he meant it. "Papa is making Syrian breakfast," Sophia announced. "It smells like home used to smell." Pierre smiled as he flipped the flatbread. Food tastes better when you cook it for people you love. After breakfast, they went shopping. Louis had planned to go to expensive stores, but Pierre stopped him. "We do not need fancy things," Pierre said. "We need good things that will last." So, they went to regular stores where Pierre carefully chose clothes that were practical and well-made. Sophia picked out school supplies and some art materials, but she didn't ask for expensive items. "Can I get colored pencils and paper?" she asked. "I want to draw pictures of our new life." "You can get whatever art supplies you want," Louis said. "I saw your drawings. You're very talented." At the bookstore, Pierre chose French-English dictionaries and books about Monaco law and business. "If I'm going to work for your foundation, I need to understand how things work here." Sophia chose books about art and a French novel her teacher had recommended. "I want to read more grown-up books," she said seriously. Louis was amazed by their choices. They could have asked for anything, but they only wanted things that would help them learn and grow. That afternoon, they went to the immigration office together. The officer, Mrs. Moreau, was a kind woman who spoke to Sophia in French and made her feel comfortable. "Your father will have his work permit within 2 weeks," she told them. "And you, Sophia, are officially enrolled in Monaco's best international school." "Really?" Sophia's eyes went wide. "The school with the art studio and the science laboratory." "The very same," Mrs. Moreau said with a smile. "Your test scores are excellent. They're excited to have you." Walking home, Sophia skipped ahead with Buster while Louis and Pierre talked. "I still cannot believe this is happening," Pierre said. 3 days ago, we were worried about having enough money for food. Now you're starting a new chapter," Louis said. "But Pierre, I need you to know something. This isn't charity. I really do need your help with my foundation." "What do you mean?" Louis stopped walking and looked at Pierre seriously. "I've been donating money to refugee programs for years, but I never really understood what refugees need. I gave money for food and shelter, but what about hope? What about dignity? What about helping people rebuild their lives instead of just surviving?" Pierre nodded slowly. "Many programs treat refugees like problems to be solved, not like people with skills and dreams." "Exactly. You can help me do better. You can help me understand what really helps and what just makes donors feel good." They reached Louis's apartment building, where reporters were waiting outside. Word had gotten out that Buster had been found. "Mr. Hamilton," called out Sarah Chun from CNN. "Can you tell us how Buster was found?" Louis looked at Pierre and Sophia. "Are you ready for people to know your story?" Pierre took Sophia's hand. "We are not ashamed of our story. Maybe it will help other people understand refugees better." Louis faced the cameras with Pierre and Sophia beside him. Buster sat perfectly at their feet. "I want to tell you about the 2 people who saved my dog and changed my life," Louis began. "And I want to tell you what real courage looks like." Louis told the reporters about Pierre and Sophia's kindness, their sacrifice, and their bravery. He explained about Pierre's new job and Sophia's school enrollment. "These 2 people showed me that family isn't just about blood," Louis said. "It's about choosing to care for each other. They chose to care for Buster when he was lost. They chose to care about my feelings when I was sad. Now we're choosing to be a family together." A reporter asked, "What's next for all of you?" Louis looked down at Sophia, who was petting Buster. "Next, we're going home to have dinner together, like families do." As they walked into the building, Louis heard one reporter say to another, "That's not just a news story. That's a miracle." Louis smiled. Maybe it was a miracle. Or maybe it was just what happened when people chose kindness over fear, love over worry, and hope over despair. Either way, Louis had never been happier to be wrong about losing something forever. Sometimes when you lose something, you find something even better. The next morning, Louis woke up to his phone buzzing with notifications. The CNN interview had been broadcast around the world overnight. His Instagram post about Pierre and Sophia had over 30 million views, but these weren't just regular likes and shares. People were telling their own stories. A woman in Germany wrote, "Your story inspired me to volunteer at our local refugee center. I'm teaching English classes starting next week." A family in Canada posted, "We just adopted a Syrian refugee family. They're moving into our guest house tomorrow. Thank you for showing us what kindness looks like." A teenager in Australia shared, "I started a fundraiser at my school for refugee children. We've already raised $5,000 for art supplies and books." Lewis showed the messages to Pierre and Sophia over breakfast. "People are helping other families because of your story," Lewis explained to Sophia. "Really?" she asked, her eyes wide. "Our story is helping other children. Your kindness is spreading around the world," Lewis said. Pierre read some of the messages and shook his head in wonder. "I cannot believe this. We just did what felt right." "That's exactly why it's so powerful," Lewis replied. "You didn't help Buster and me because you wanted anything. You helped because it was the right thing to do." Lewis's phone rang. It was Max Verstappen. "Lewis, I just saw the CNN interview. That was incredible, man." "Thanks, Max. Listen, I want to do something too. My foundation in Holland works with refugee families. Can Pierre help me understand what programs actually work? I want to make sure we're really helping, not just giving money." Lewis looked at Pierre, who was listening carefully. "Pierre, Max wants to know if you'd be willing to advise his foundation too." Pierre's face lit up. "Of course. I would be honored to help." Over the next few days, more F1 drivers called asking for Pierre's advice. Sebastian Vettel wanted help with his refugee education program in Germany. Carlos Sainz asked about supporting refugee families in Spain. Even team bosses started calling. "You've become famous," Lewis told Pierre with a laugh. "I do not want to be famous," Pierre said seriously. "I want to help people. There are millions of refugee families who need support. If I can help a few hundred, maybe a few thousand, then losing our old life was worth something." Sophia started her new school on Monday. Lewis and Pierre walked her to the front gate together. "Are you nervous?" Lewis asked. "A little," Sophia admitted. "But I'm excited too. My teacher said they have an art room with real easels and oil paints. If anyone is mean to you, you tell us immediately," Pierre said firmly. "Papa, children at this school are from many countries. The principal said there are kids from 15 different places. I won't be the only one who speaks with an accent." After they dropped Sophia off, Lewis and Pierre went to Lewis's foundation office for Pierre's first day of work. The office was in a modern building overlooking Monaco Harbor. Pierre would have his own desk and computer with access to all the foundation's programs and budgets. "Your job is to tell me the truth," Lewis explained, "even if it's hard to hear. Especially if it's hard to hear." Pierre spent his first week reviewing everything Lewis's foundation had done for refugee families over the past 5 years. "You have spent 12 million euros, Pierre told Lewis at the end of the week. "Most of it went to good places, but some of it." He paused. "Tell me," Lewis said. "Some organizations took your money and used it for salaries and office buildings. Very little reached actual families." Lewis felt frustrated but not surprised. "How do we do better? We find smaller organizations run by refugees themselves. We fund specific projects with clear goals, and we follow up to see real results." Pierre showed Lewis a list he had made. These 15 organizations are doing amazing work. They're all run by former refugees who understand what families really need. Lewis looked at the list. "Let's fund all of them. And Pierre, I want you to visit each one personally. Make sure the money gets to the right places. You trust me to do that?" "I trust you more than anyone," Lewis said simply. Meanwhile, Sophia was thriving at her new school. She came home every day with stories about new friends and exciting lessons. "Today we painted with watercolors," she told them at dinner. "My teacher said I have natural talent. And my friend Maria is from Guatemala. She's teaching me Spanish words." "How is your French?" Pierre asked. "Getting better every day. My reading teacher said I might skip ahead to a higher level next month." Elena started joining them for dinner twice a week. She and Sophia had become close friends, and Sophia had started calling her Aunt Elena. "I've been thinking," Elena said one evening. "There are many refugee children in Monaco who don't have access to good health care. What if we started a free clinic?" "Tell me more," Lewis said, interested. "I could volunteer my time. We could set up basic health checkups, vaccinations, dental care. The children's health is so important for their success in school. Pierre nodded enthusiastically. In the refugee camps, we never had good medical care. Children got sick and stayed sick because there were no doctors. Let's do it, Louis decided. Pierre, can you help Elena identify families who need help? I already know many families, Pierre said. I can start making calls tomorrow. 3 months after finding Buster, Louis got a letter that made him cry happy tears. It was from a family in Sweden. Dear Mr. Hamilton, it read, we saw your story on television. It inspired us to help a refugee family from Afghanistan. The father, Ahmad, is a doctor, but he cannot work because his medical degree is not recognized here. We helped pay for him to take Swedish medical exams. He just passed. He starts work at our local hospital next month. His children are learning Swedish and doing well in school. Thank you for showing us that helping others helps ourselves too. Louis showed the letter to Pierre and Sophia. Ahmad was a doctor in his country. Pierre asked. Yes, now he can be a doctor again. This makes me so happy, Sophia said. When people help refugees become who they were before, everyone wins. Louis realized that Sophia, at only 10 years old, understood something many adults missed. Refugees weren't just people who needed help. They were doctors, teachers, engineers, artists, people with skills and dreams who just needed a chance to rebuild their lives. More letters came from around the world. A tech company in Ireland hired 3 refugee engineers after hearing Pierre speak on a podcast about refugee talents. A restaurant in New York partnered with a Syrian chef to open a new location serving Middle Eastern food. The hashtag #KindnessLike there started trending globally. People shared stories of helping refugees, volunteering at shelters, donating to education programs, and hiring immigrants for jobs. Louis's foundation, with Pierre's guidance, started a new program called Skills Bridge. Instead of just giving money for basic needs, they helped refugee professionals get their credentials recognized in new countries. A Syrian doctor should be able to practice medicine in Germany, Pierre explained to a group of European Foundation leaders via video call. An Afghan engineer should be able to build bridges in Canada. When we waste their talents, we hurt everyone. 6 months later, the Skills Bridge program had helped over 500 refugee professionals return to their careers in 15 different countries. You were right, Louis told Pierre as they reviewed the program's success. The best way to help refugees is to help them help themselves. And the best way to help yourself, Pierre replied with a smile, is to help others. Buster, who had been lying quietly by Louis's feet during their work meeting, suddenly stood up and walked to the window. A golden butterfly had landed on the glass outside. Even Buster knows, Sophia said, laughing. Beautiful things happen when you share kindness. Louis looked at his chosen family, Pierre working on plans to help more refugees, Sophia drawing pictures of their life together, Elena checking over health clinic schedules, and Buster watching butterflies. The ripple effect of finding Buster had created waves of kindness that were still spreading around the world. And it all started with 2 people who chose to do the right thing, even when it was scary. 3 months later, Louis stood on the podium at the Miami Grand Prix, holding his first place trophy high above his head. The crowd roared, but Louis was looking for 2 special faces in the Ferrari team section. There they were, Pierre wearing a red Ferrari shirt and official team credentials, and Sophia jumping up and down with excitement. She held a sign that said, Papa Louis #1, in colorful letters she had painted herself. After the race, Louis found them in the paddock area where family members waited for drivers. Sophia ran straight into his arms. You won, she shouted, hugging him tight. We all won today, Louis said, lifting her up. Did you see the race on the big screens? Every single lap, Pierre said proudly. Sophia explained all the racing rules to the people sitting near us. She knows more about Formula 1 than some reporters. Louis laughed. She's been studying. I think she wants to be a race engineer when she grows up. Or an artist, Sophia said seriously. Or maybe both. And Elena says I can be whatever I want. Elena had stayed back in Monaco to run the free medical clinic they had opened 2 months ago. The clinic was already helping over 200 refugee children and their families get proper health care. How is school going? Louis asked Sophia as they walked through the paddock. Amazing. My French is almost perfect now, and I'm learning Italian too. My art teacher says my paintings are good enough for a gallery show. Really? When? Pierre smiled. Next month. The Monaco Cultural Center wants to display her artwork about refugee children. She painted 12 pictures showing kids from different countries, all playing together. Louis felt proud, tears in his eyes. That's incredible, Sophia. I painted one special picture for you, she said shyly. It shows the day we found Buster, but also the day you found us. That evening, they had dinner at a restaurant in Miami with some of Louis's racing friends. Max Verstappen joined them, along with Carlos Sainz and their families. Pierre, I have news about our program in Holland, Max said. Thanks to your advice, we've helped 50 refugee families get proper housing and jobs. The father you recommended, the Syrian engineer, he just designed a new water treatment plant that will help thousands of people. That makes me very happy, Pierre said. When refugees can use their skills, everyone benefits. Carlos nodded. Our program in Spain is working too. We partnered with universities to help refugee doctors and teachers get their credentials recognized. 15 people are now working in their professions again. Sophia listened carefully to all the grown-up conversation. Will I be able to help families too when I'm older? She asked. You're already helping families, Louis told her. Your art shows people that refugee children are just children who want to play and learn and be happy. That's very important. How? She asked. Because when people see your paintings, they stop thinking of refugees as problems to solve. They start seeing them as kids who like the same things their own kids like. Pierre nodded. Sophia's pictures show the truth that children are the same everywhere, no matter what country they come from. The next morning, Louis, Pierre, and Sophia flew back to Monaco. Buster was waiting for them at the airport with Elena, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. How was my boy while we were gone? Louis asked Elena. Perfect as always, but I think he missed Sophia the most. He kept going to her room and lying on her bed. Sophia knelt down and hugged Buster tight. I missed you too, Buster. Did Aunt Elena tell you Papa Louis won the race? Buster barked once, which they all knew meant yes. Back at home, Louis found a stack of letters waiting for him. His assistant Marcus had left them on his desk with a note. More families you've inspired. Louis read them with Pierre and Sophia. Each letter told a story of kindness spreading. A family in Japan had started an after-school program for refugee children. A group of students in Brazil created a scholarship fund for immigrant teenagers. A retired teacher in Australia began offering free English lessons to new refugees. Look at this one, Louis said, holding up a letter from Germany. It's from a 10-year-old girl who started collecting art supplies for refugee children in her city. Sophia's eyes lit up. She's my age. Can I write to her? Of course. Maybe you can become pen pals. One letter made Louis stop and read it twice. It was from Ahmad, the Afghan doctor who had passed his medical exams in Sweden. Dear Louis, Pierre, and Sophia, it read. I wanted you to know that I performed my first surgery in my new hospital. Yesterday, I saved a 7-year-old boy's life. None of this would have happened without your story inspiring the family who helped me. When I held that little boy's hand before surgery, I thought about how kindness travels from person to person, creating miracles. You started something beautiful. Thank you for showing the world that refugees are not burdens. We are gifts waiting to be unwrapped. Louis wiped tears from his eyes as he finished reading. Pierre, do you realize what we've started? We didn't start it, Pierre said quietly. God started it. We just chose to be part of it. That weekend, they drove to the Monaco harbor for a special ceremony. The city was dedicating a new statue, a bronze sculpture of a child and a dog, symbolizing how kindness between strangers can change the world. Mayor of Monaco gave a speech. This statue represents something that happened right here in our city. It reminds us that the smallest acts of kindness can have the biggest impact. Sophia held Louis's hand as they looked at the statue. It looks like me and Buster, she said. It is you and Buster, Louis replied. And every child who needs help, and every person brave enough to help them. The statue had a plaque with words in French, English, and Arabic, in memory of the truth that love knows no borders. Later that day, Louis got a video call from his mother in England. Louis, I'm so proud of you, she said. Not for winning races, but for the family you've built and the lives you're changing. Thanks, Mom. I want you to meet them properly. Louis called Pierre and Sophia over to the computer. Pierre, Sophia, this is my mother, Carmen. Hello, Mrs. Hamilton, Pierre said politely. Thank you for raising such a kind son. Carmen smiled warmly. Thank you for taking such good care of him and Buster. Louis sounds happier than he's been in years. That's because we're all happier, Sophia said. Families make everyone happy. After the call, Louis found Pierre on the balcony looking out at the sea. Do you ever miss Syria? Louis asked. Pierre was quiet for a moment. I miss what Syria was before the war. I miss the smell of my mother's cooking and the sound of children playing in our neighborhood. But I don't miss the fear. Do you think you'll ever go back? Maybe someday, when it's safe. But Louis, I've learned something important. Home isn't just a place. Home is the people who love you. Pierre gestured toward the apartment where Sophia was teaching Buster a new trick. We lost our country, but we found our family. That's not a fair trade, but it's the trade we got. And I'm grateful. That night, Louis tucked Sophia into bed, something that had become their routine. Papa Louis, she said sleepily, do you think other lost dogs will bring families together too? Louis smiled. I think love finds a way to bring the right people together, whether it's through lost dogs or any other reason. Good, Sophia said, closing her eyes. Because there are lots of children who need families, and lots of grown-ups who need children to love. Louis kissed her forehead. Sleep well, little star. As he turned off her light, Louis thought about how different his life was now. A year ago, he had been successful but lonely. He had money and fame, but he came home to an empty apartment every night. Now he came home to laughter, to Pierre cooking dinner and telling stories about his work, to Sophia showing him her latest artwork, to Buster sleeping peacefully by the window that he had lost a dog for 3 days and found a family for life. And around the world, their story continued to inspire others to open their hearts and homes to people who needed hope. Sometimes the best things in life came from the scariest moments. Sometimes losing something led to finding everything. 6 months later, Louis stood on the same beach where Buster had disappeared. But this time, everything was different. Buster wore a bright new GPS collar and stayed close to his family. All of his family. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and they had come to Larvado Beach for a special celebration. Today marked 1 year since Buster went missing and changed all their lives forever. Are you ready, boy? Louis asked, holding Buster's favorite tennis ball, the same one from that scary day a year ago. Buster barked excitedly and wagged his tail. But instead of running far away like he used to, he stayed within sight of Louis, Pierre, and Sophia. He learned his lesson, Sophia said with a laugh. No more running away from family. Pierre spread a blanket on the sand while Elena unpacked the picnic lunch they had brought. Over the past year, Elena had become like a sister to Louis and an aunt to Sophia. She still ran the free medical clinic, which now helped over 500 refugee families. Look, Sophia said, pointing to a familiar blue fishing boat pulled up on the beach. That's the boat where we found Buster hiding. Louis looked at the boat and shook his head in amazement. If Buster hadn't hidden under that exact boat, we never would have met you and Pierre. Maybe we would have met another way, Pierre said wisely. Good people always find each other somehow. As they ate lunch, Louis told them about the letter he had received that morning. It was from the publisher of his book, What Buster Taught Me About Coming Home. The book has sold 2 million copies worldwide, Louis announced. And all the money is going to refugee education programs. 2 million. Sophia's eyes went wide. That means 2 million people read our story and learned about refugee families, Pierre added proudly. Maybe some of those people will help other families now. Elena smiled. I got a call yesterday from a hospital in Canada. They want to copy our free clinic model. They're going to start providing health care for refugee children there too. Louis felt that familiar warm feeling in his chest. Their story kept growing, helping more and more people around the world. Suddenly, Sophia jumped up from the blanket. Look, there's Mrs. Gabriella from the cafe. The elderly French woman was walking along the beach with her small white dog. When she saw them, her face lit up with joy. Louis, Buster, and the beautiful family. Mrs. Gabriella called out in her thick accent. She hurried over to their blanket, her little dog yapping excitedly at Buster. How is my favorite racing driver and his handsome dog? She asked, just like she had every morning for the past year. We're Wonderful, Mrs. Gabriella, Louis replied. This is Pierre and Sophia, my family. Ah yes, the heroes who found Buster. I have been telling everyone in Monaco about your kindness. Mrs. Gabriella sat down on their blanket and pulled out a small, wrapped package. Sophia, this is for you. I heard about your art exhibition next week. Sophia unwrapped the gift carefully. Inside was a beautiful set of watercolor paints with a note in French. What does it say? Sophia asked. Pierre read the note aloud. For the little artist who shows the world that children are the same everywhere. Keep painting truth and beauty. Sophia hugged Mrs. Gabriella tight. Thank you. I will paint you a picture of Buster on the beach. That would make me very happy, Mrs. Gabriella said. After Mrs. Gabriella continued her walk, Louis got a text message that made him smile. Who's that from? Elena asked. Max Verstappen. He's at a refugee camp in Jordan, helping set up a new school. He says the children there love hearing Buster's story. Pierre nodded. Stories give people hope. When refugees hear about our family, they know that good things can happen to them too. As the afternoon went on, more people recognized them on the beach. Instead of just wanting autographs from Louis, they wanted to thank all of them for inspiring acts of kindness that a young couple from Italy said they had started volunteering at a refugee center after reading Louis's book. A family from Germany explained how they had helped a Syrian family find jobs and housing. You changed our thinking, the German father said. We used to see refugees as other people's problems. Now we see them as future neighbors and friends. Each story filled Louis with pride, not pride in being famous, but pride in what their family had accomplished together. As the sun began to set, they packed up their picnic and prepared to go home. But first, Louis wanted to do something special. Pierre, do you remember what you told me the first night we met? Pierre thought for a moment. I said many things that night. You said that love is always a big chance, but it's the only chance worth taking. Yes, I remember. Louis pulled out a small folder from his bag. I've been working on something with my lawyer. I want to make it official. He handed Pierre legal documents. These are adoption papers. If you want, I'd like to legally adopt Sophia as my daughter, and I'd like us to be a real family in every way. Pierre's eyes filled with tears as he read the papers. Sophia looked confused. What does adopt mean? She asked. It means Papa Louis wants to be your official papa too. Pierre explained gently. You would be his daughter legally, not just in our hearts. Sophia threw her arms around Louis. Really? I could be a Hamilton. If you want to be. You'd be Sophia Hamilton, but Pierre would still be your papa too. We'd all be family together. Yes. Sophia shouted so loud that other people on the beach turned to look. Yes, yes, yes. Pierre wiped tears from his eyes. Louis, are you sure? This is a big responsibility. I've never been more sure of anything, Louis said. You too are my family. You have been since the day you called me about Buster. Now I want the whole world to know it officially. Elena hugged all three of them. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Buster seemed to understand that something important was happening. He sat perfectly still and placed one paw on Louis's leg and one paw on Sophia's leg, like he was blessing their family. As they walked back through the streets of Monaco toward home, Sophia skipped ahead with Buster while Louis and Pierre talked. A year ago, I was just a lonely man with a dog, Louis said. Now I'm a father and a brother and part of something bigger than myself. A year ago, Sophia and I were just surviving, Pierre replied. Now we're living. We're helping others live too. That's the real miracle. They stopped at their favorite cafe, where Mrs. Gabriella had left a closed sign on the door, but she opened it when she saw them coming. Special celebration dinner for the Hamilton family, she announced. How did you know about the adoption? Louis asked. Mrs. Gabriella winked. Good news travels fast in Monaco. Besides, anyone with eyes could see you three belong together. They sat at their usual table outside, watching the lights come on across Monaco Harbor. Sophia drew pictures on napkins while Buster lay across everyone's feet. Papa Louis, Sophia said, looking up from her drawing. Will you tell me the story again? Which story? The story of the day Buster got lost and found us. Louis smiled. Once upon a time, there was a man who thought he had everything he needed. He had a successful job and a beautiful dog and a nice place to live. But he was lonely. Sophia continued, knowing the story by heart. Very lonely. Then one day, his dog got scared and ran away. The man was heartbroken. He searched everywhere, asking everyone for help. And two strangers found the dog, Pierre added. Two strangers who became family, Louis finished. And they all learned that the best families aren't just born, they're chosen. Sophia finished her napkin drawing and showed it to them. It was a picture of four figures holding hands, a tall man, a shorter man, a little girl, and a golden dog. Above them, she had written the Hamilton family in careful letters. Perfect, Louis said, folding the drawing carefully and putting it in his wallet next to the very first drawing she had made for him a year ago. They walked home through the narrow streets where Sophia had first led Louis to find Buster. Louis realized that this was what happiness felt like. Not the excitement of winning races or the satisfaction of success, but the deep, quiet joy of belonging somewhere with people who chose to love you. They reached their apartment building, where the bronze statue of a child and dog glinted in the streetlight. Sophia always touched the statue's hand for good luck. Ready to go home? Louis asked. We are home, Sophia said, taking Louis's hand on one side and Pierre's on the other. Wherever we're together, that's home. Buster barked in agreement and led the way inside, his tail wagging proudly as he walked with the people who loved him most. The story ended exactly where it began, with Louis and Buster in Monaco. But now they weren't just a man and his dog. They were part of something bigger, something that started with loss but created love. Sometimes the best families aren't the ones you're born into, but the ones you choose, and the ones that choose you back. Even when you least expect it, we'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. It's amazing to see how stories like this bring people together from all around the world. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales that celebrate the power of human kindness. And here's the most important part. Share this video with your friends and family. Just like Pierre and Sophia's kindness created ripples that spread across the globe, your share could inspire someone else to choose compassion over fear, love over worry, because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. Thank you for listening. And remember, we're all just one kind choice away from changing someone's life forever.